Hi, this is my cultural bag for my Social Foundations of Education class. For the purpose of this assignment, I was required to select a bag. And in this particular bag, I put some artifacts to kind of help highlight who I am as a cultural being. To me, culture is not just about, like, say, arts or entertainment, but it's about, the social events that take place around us. It's about the family values that we grow up with. It's about the environment that we come from. And in my particular case, I was born in 1967. This was a few years after the death of John F. Kennedy, after his assassination. And I was actually born just a few months before the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. So during that time frame, there was a lot of social things going on that was geared towards civil rights. It was geared towards equality. In terms of where I come from, I consider myself to be of Northern European influence. My maternal grandfather's mother came here from Denmark. My father's side of the family came here many, many, many years ago from Yorkshire, England. So a lot of the influences that have shaped who I am are of predominantly Northern European origin. And having been born and raised in Illinois, my family is from Southern Illinois. Now, when I look at the class readings, I think about John Dewey's My Pedagogical Creed, or My Pedagogic Creed. It was written in the 1890s, and I found it very interesting that he used the pronoun he in describing both the teacher as well as the student. And what that tells me is that Dewey's culture was predominantly geared towards men. That men were the individuals who benefited from education. They were the ones who were allowed to be students. They were also allowed to be teachers. Even though the teaching profession, particularly in the K through 12, is associated predominantly with white women today, back then, that just really wasn't an option for women. And that kind of starts off with my little cultural artifacts here. I've got two pictures of my maternal grandmother and my paternal grandmother. My maternal grandmother's name was Lenore Lindstrom. My paternal grandmother, her name was Kova Wilkinson. And both women have interesting stories to tell. When my grandmother, Lenore, was 18 years old, she wanted to go to college. However, her father felt that college was wasted on women. He did not believe that that was a pursuit that women should take. My paternal grandmother, Kova, was orphaned at the age of 5. Her mother died, and I don't know if she was really fully orphaned because her father just kind of left her to be raised by relatives. And when she was a very young girl, she was compelled to quit school to help raise her cousins. Now, considering that we live in a time now where education is compulsory, my paternal grandmother would now have the opportunity to, at the very least, finish high school. However, back in her day, that just simply was not an option. And my maternal grandmother, she was denied the opportunity to pursue a college education by her father because he felt that education was wasted on women. Also, in my little cultural bag here, I have a picture of my parents. My mother, Janet, my father, Cecil. Now, my parents were married in 1964. My father was the first person in his family to go and get a bachelor's degree. My mother ended up getting a bachelor's degree because my grandfather very strongly believed in the value of education for everyone. All of the children that he had who survived to adulthood ended up completing college degrees. My mother got a bachelor's degree. She did some graduate work. My Uncle Gordon got a PhD, and then my Uncle John, he got a master's degree. And I believe that he was actually ABD. He was everything but dissertation as far as doctorates go. Both my uncles were teachers during their careers. Both my parents started out as teachers, but they eventually ended up in other fields. This other cultural picture that I have is that of my maternal grandfather. Again, my maternal grandfather was born in 1901. He died in 1992, just a few months after my daughter was born. Now, he was forced to quit high school at a young age because his father died and he had to go and work and support his family. That is an important story to tell because, again, he was denied the opportunity to get an education due to circumstances in his family. You know, at the time, that was just simply what was culturally acceptable. Later on, you know, when we look at politicians like Paul Ryan, who also lost a parent at a young age, he had social safety nets that enabled him to not only complete high school, but to also go on to college. And it's kind of ironic that he benefited from some of the safety nets that, as a politician, he now wants to do away with. You know, and again, that's kind of something that shapes who I am culturally. This is my brother Jeff. My brother Jeff is living with autism. He is a couple years older than me. Now, I was born in Southern Illinois, and my father moved to Champaign in the early 1970s because the family relocated because my brother, with his disabilities, there were no access to any kind of services during that period of time in the small town that we were living in. So in order for my brother to get any kind of opportunity for an education, they had to come up here. Nowadays, you know, there is funding, there's special education, there are IEPs, yet, as you know, anybody who's had a child with an IEP can tell you, having access to an education for someone who's got specific needs can still be a real challenge. And on that note, this is a picture that was taken in 2005 of my daughter Karen. And I have a more recent picture here that she took of herself that she sent to me on her cell phone. This is a more recent picture of her. And Karen, in the 4th grade, was diagnosed as having a disability, a learning disability in the area of math assessment. So having raised a child with an IEP, I can tell you as a parent, it still has been a struggle to see to it that she was given the opportunities to receive the same level of education. And in some respects, that still has not happened for her. She's currently attending Parkland College, and I'm very proud of the person who she has become. She's had to really kind of overcome certain attitudes, such as there's no such thing as a math disability, which is probably not unlike what, you know, earlier students who were diagnosed with dyslexia had to deal with. So there are still barriers to education for, you know, individuals who have IEPs, people of color, non-traditional students like myself. You know, I'm being judged by the same standards that, say, most 21 and 22-year-olds have to go through, and personally, I don't think that's fair, but it is what it is, and that's what I have to deal with. And finally, I want to share, you know, my master's thesis. I wrote this in 2010, or this was published in 2010, I should say. I earned my master's degree in 2010 from Eastern Illinois University, so this is not my first rodeo as a non-traditional student. I'm currently going for, you know, a bachelor's degree, a second bachelor's. I'm hoping to get certified in English language arts. And part of what really drives me as a future teacher is wanting to make sure that people do get kind of an equal break in the classroom. I hope that this particular video blog has given you the opportunity to kind of get to know who I am a little bit better, maybe broaden your understanding as far as where I'm coming from culturally, or perhaps even what culture is. I think that the opportunity to bring like these artifacts to, you know, the table does kind of give us an opportunity to kind of explore these things about ourselves as well as about, you know, our classmates.